Hello and welcome to PM Express and the conversation on the table today, fight against corruption. But what are we talking about? We're looking at the special prosecutor. And I'm sure if you were in Ghana, that was one news that shook us to our foundations when the president finally mentioned Martin Amidu as the special prosecutor. Now, there's one man who has individually fought corruption, fought against his own party, and has gained a strong no-nonsense reputation. And so when he was nominated and chosen to be the special prosecutor, there was even a comment that said that it was like Batman being made the IGP. I mean, this was a bulldozer who was going to literally eat up and massacre everyone who's holding any place of office and was misbehaving. Now it's been some time down the line and we're not hearing anything. We're not seeing any prosecutions either. Indeed, it looks as if Martin Amidu was more active and wild before he gained the office as a special prosecutor. But then he's come out to say, listen, I don't even have a well-resourced office to work. There are elements within government who refuse to give me dockets and information to work, and that indeed my reputation alone will not end corruption that began since the days of independence. And that if it's going to work, it has to be all hands on deck. Which hands are we going to have on deck? And that's the issue now. Can't this corruption thing even subsidize? Forget about elimination, but subsidize. I interviewed KSM who says, Nana, corruption is now our way of life. To eliminate it means you are eliminating our way of life. My name is Nana Zakwa IV, Chief of the Little Republic of Akomo Dumasa. When I come back, we are looking at the fight against corruption.
You can't win fight against corruption by the appointment of one person. You need to establish an office. That office must have all the components of division. The investigators must be in place. The prosecutors must be in place. The asset recovery personnel must be in place. The asset corruption prevention personnel must be in place. I have been in office for 7 months. There is no legislation for me to recruit. There is no legislation for me to operate. I don't have the component of staff, and therefore I have just a core component of staff. I just received 3 investigators, an inspector, a sergeant, and a corporal on Monday, and yet the public is baying. What is he doing? He's not catching the people. In any case, you just don't walk onto the street and say, your face looks like corruption. I've caught you. I'm saying this for the public to understand that we have set up an office. We have to organize that office, have the requisite personnel. It doesn't take 1 day. My law says that 90 days after the assumption of office of the special prosecutor, pursuant legislation must be enacted. As we speak today, I have no legislation. So I use my common sense. The law says I can coordinate with other organizations. So I coordinate with the Auditor General. I coordinate with Yoko. I coordinate with other anti-corruption bodies, so as to find a way by which we can begin to work towards the ultimate end. I have warned that if most of these things were not done by the middle of this year, then this office may not be able to be seen to be doing its mandate by middle next year. Because by middle next year, you are in election year. If I arrest somebody, you will turn up and look at it. Which party does he hold the insurance card from?
Lamentations of the special prosecutor. And my guest today, I have Martin Pebu, and on Skype I have Edem Senanu, Chairman Citizens Movement Against Corruption. So I'll go straight to Skype where Edem Senanu is joining the show. Hello, Edem. Hello, Edem. Do we have Edem on Skype? Okay. Hello, Edem. Can you hear me? Okay, let's go for a quick break while we fix these technical challenges and then we go. Well, thank you very much for staying. With me in the studio was Martin Pebu, private legal practitioner, no stranger to the show at all. Yeah. Martin, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nana.
Let me go straight to Skype and see if technology will allow me now. Hello, Adam, can you hear me now?
Hi, Nana. Can you also hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fully. Production will turn up the sound a little bit for me. Adam, let me just leave it with you. I mean, you've heard, Martin Amidu's lamentations. I mean, what's your position on that?
I think it's rather unfortunate that after all the excitement about the nomination and appointment of Martin, our systems have failed us in terms of giving him the support he needs to be able to bite. And we ought to be asking what happened in terms of establishing his board, and then again in terms of laying the legislation before Parliament. How come we do not have this being passed under a certificate of urgency, given how citizens are really concerned about this issue? So it's a real disappointment for many of us anti-corruption activists and governance experts that we have kind of lost the initial momentum that Martin's appointment brought to all of us.
I mean, I'm glad you go back there, the momentum. I mean, it looked like the almost silver bullet, not a complete silver bullet, but let me say silver-plated bullet that was going to reduce corruption. I mean, it's a great disappointment. I mean, so is that it? I mean, if this fails, then what next?
Well, no, I mean, I think we've got to make sure we engage Parliament and the presidency on this. I'm clear in my mind that the president would not have made this kind of decision if he was not committed to bringing a change. Because you don't go choosing a Martin Amidu if you want to play games around corruption. But unfortunately, and this is not the only area that we seem to feel or realize that the president's men are not backing up and performing as robustly and as swiftly as all of us would desire as citizens. And I think it's an example where the presidency ought to start asking questions. He's taking the position, he's made his commitment known, he has a vision, but the men to translate this into a reality seem to have just slowed down and undermined the whole process. And then once again, this is an area where then you leave the impression that we can't get things right as Ghanaians. But that's not supposed to be the case. People ought to be held accountable for these kind of situations.
I mean, Adam, what my major concern is, I mean, if there's any no-nonsense individual in Ghana, I mean, Martin Amidu, I mean, if there was a roll call of no-nonsense men, he would be in there. So if such a man falls into our usual category of unable to do things, I mean, we were promised that this office was not going to lack anything. He was going to, get all the funds he needed so that he would work. And, many months down the line, he's just only been given 3 prosecutors and nothing else. I mean, if it looks like we have failed, and we are failing.
Well, yes. I mean, it's a very abysmal performance. It's really frustrating, and I think that it's good that Martin has broken the silence, because we're beginning to wonder. I mean, is it that he's sold out? Is it that he's kind of just joined the fray? But obviously, somebody is slowing down this, maybe for good reason. So I don't think as citizens, not wanting to be spectators, we should just keep quiet about it. Again, I think that it's worrying. It's worrying because it is clear that the power he needs to procure, whether it's in terms of personnel or logistics, can only be available. He can only be clothed with it when that airline is passed. And the question on my mind is, well, we've had Parliament called back for some emergency decision making. How come this is not one of those areas that has been slated for this emergency meeting? And how come nobody seems to be talking about it, at least from the legislature, so that we know that, look, they are equally concerned about this issue? We really need to do a lot of introspection and look at our systems and find out what is it that we are not getting right.
Adam, stay on there for me. Let me come to studio. Counsel.
Yes. Okay.
Well, your senior counsel says that the airline is not in place, and therefore his hands are tied. I mean, how?
Okay. Nana, I think let's put it this way. He didn't make the point that he will need the airline in order to open the keys to the court. No. In actual fact, if you follow the presentation, I think the airline was mentioned after other problems had been mentioned, the issues of lack of enough investigators, prosecutors, the finance department, because the SP office is supposed to have divisions, finance and administration, prosecution, investigations, and so on and so forth. So to be very clear, we need to make this very clear. It is not the airline that will open the doors to the courts. No. To be candid, if we draw up a scale of preference, the airline may be heading bottom. I think let's get that clarity of thought. What it is that the scope of the airline is limited. It's limited. Let's go there. Section 78. The things that are meant to be in the airline, we already have most of them catered for in broad strokes. I mean, putting it in a layman's language, but it's actually more than broad strokes. It's more than sufficient. But at least maybe if we say broad strokes, perhaps I can connect with viewers. So most of those provisions that they are going to deal with, or the teams that will be dealt with in the airline, have been dealt with in the Act, except that the airline is supposed to give further details. And this is not the first time we are confronted with an Act of Parliament which has substantive provisions and which also asks for an airline to further provide for. Okay, this is not the first time. So I would say it without any equivocation that when it comes to the problems is enumerated, the airline is heading bottom. Number one, at the top, they were talking about his human resources, the investigators, the prosecutors, the finance and administration personnel, the accounting, those persons. He doesn't have them. The office space, he's behind his in the corner at Laboni. Even before I got here, because I got noticed late, I wanted to see how the office looks like, because I don't get to watch TV much. He said, yeah, we should have it in a very prominent part, perhaps on the Independence Avenue, where most people would find that this is the office of the special prosecutor, making it
large
very easy.
Space
exactly.
With his team of people.
Exactly. So he needs that prominence in the central business district, or at least that Independence Avenue. Okay. Yes. So let's get that clarity. So he himself could not have been saying that it is the airline that's going to give him the keys to the court. No, no, no. Far from it. It's rather about the challenges of setting up the office itself.
So you think the image would also add to, I don't know whether the fear or the
image
office,
of Mr. Amidu?
No, the image of the office.
Yes, 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 it would add to. But most especially, that it's his personality. It's his personality that's the main driving force. That's what gave us the excitement. It was almost like somebody said, a fairy tale appointment, which generated so much fanfare, and rightfully so. So now let's do the last bit. Let's put in the money. To be candid, I'm surprised that people didn't plan well, the people in charge, the finances. I'm surprised that knowing this man's character, so I mean, I'm saying it positively, maybe for lack of it, but knowing that he has such a strong personality, you dare starve him of funds, it will come out. So please, the president's handlers should do a better job. They should have known. I remember in the midst of the excitement, I think I was in this studio, I was in other studios, we mentioned it, that look, let's start looking at how much is being voted for the office. I'm surprised. Look, some the planners need to do a better job. Don't joke with such a guy, because you know what they're doing? They are basically taking away a lot of the goodwill that the president enjoyed by appointing Mr. Hamidu. Yes, so the people in charge of the plan, they've done a very poor job. They should have known Mr. Hamidu that if you do this, he will come out, and so you would suffer a public backlash. And you see it, it's already happening. So it's a poor job. If I really had powers, I mean, I'm sure some people should suffer for this poor planning. Yes, don't do this. It's needless.
We were assured that this office was not going to lack.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And knowing who Mr. Hamidu is, that's why I said those people in charge of releasing funds for the office to function, I think they should be sanctioned a bit, because they haven't shown much foresight, especially with this person, knowing that Ghanaians love Mr. Hamidu, everybody is pushing for him to do the job. They should have known that give it high priority, so that he doesn't come complaining. That's what I'm saying. They should have known. Yeah.
Is it an expensive office to run? Or would it be an expensive office to run?
Oh, naturally, things in the nature of investigations and prosecutions are not cheap, but you would look at the benefits. You would look at the benefits. So to say expensive, we say yes, but it's more than worth it. More than the benefits that will accrue to the nation would far outweigh the cost of setting up the office. Because, you know, potentially from Accra, he would expand into the regions. So if Accra is not starting well, then you see that there will be cause to start wondering what will happen to the regions. You say it. Yes. And let's chip in this point. You see, but the curious thing is that when Mr. Hamidu mentioned two things, that one, people were frustrating his job. It's curious to me, because the same act makes it an offense for anybody to frustrate his job. So actually those persons can be prosecuted. So it's unlike Mr. Hamidu, unless maybe we'll say that perhaps he's throwing a caution to them. Yes, then we would benefit from reading from the act, specifically section 73. 73.3 says, a public officer who refuses or fails without reasonable cause to cooperate with an authorized officer commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 50 penalty units and not more than 100 penalty units, or to a term of imprisonment of not less than 3 months and not more than 6 months, or both. Yeah, so let's go over. Minimum of 50 penalty units, maximum 100, okay? Then a term of imprisonment, minimum 3 months, maximum 6. And when we say penalty unit,
that's if you don't cooperate.
Exactly. If we say penalty unit, 1 is equal to 12 Ghana cedis. So if you are giving 100 times 12, is that 1,200 Ghana? Yes. So the person would fill it in his packet. You say, so is there clear? Says that if a public officer refuses to, then there is trouble. Apart from that, there is also section 69, where it says in terms of when he comes searching and to seize items. So 69.1 says, a person who fails to comply with a lawful demand of an authorized officer in the performance of functions under this act, or B, fails to produce property declared to be seized under this act, or C, conceals or attempts to conceal property liable to seizure under this act, or D, furnishes information to an authorized officer which the person knows to be false, commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 500 penalty units and not more than 1,000 penalty units, or to a term of imprisonment of not less than 2 years and not more than 4 years, or both, and so on and so forth. When you refuse him access, we could read on and on. So I would, in the context of the presentation he made, public officers should take this as a warning. Yeah, I think they'll be better off seeing it that way, because next time he may well prosecute them.
Adam, I mean, listening to what Martin just read, well, senior Martin.
Oh, no, no, I'm fine. We are all learning. In the legal profession, I'm a baby.
So maybe we still have to see the basket ruffled a bit. What do you think?
He may well prosecute them.
I mean, we are all waiting with bated breath to have these teething things dealt with. And I think that Martin Jr., so to speak, makes a big point when he says, look, the man is making a subtle attack and saying, look, you guys, you are frustrating me, and I'm not happy about it. And you know, Martin has that habit of putting out in the public space things that are happening. Money's entering his account he's not expecting, things that are happening, just trying to let you know that, look, he's not going to tolerate or brook any kind of nonsense. So, yeah, we need some ruffling of all these sectors where, whether it is procurement, whether it's finance, whether it's the legislature, to know that this is a very important aspect of the agenda, not just of the president, but of Ghanaians. And we will not sit back to wait for anybody to continue to be a stumbling block to us achieving what is in the best interest of Ghana.
Let me go. Joining us on the phone now is lawyer Gary Nimako, who's part of the government legal team. Gary, you're welcome.
Oh, thank you, my brother. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thanks for joining us. But I think my question to you is, why is the Special Prosecutor's Office being starved of resources?
Good evening to you again, and good evening, my brother Martin.
Good evening, Gary.
Yeah.
And good evening to you yourself, Nana and Sakwa.
Yes, boss.
Nana, you see, when people say that somebody has stifled the office of Special Prosecutor, I don't think it's fair. In any event, when the this office comes to fruition, this office was set up recently, and you recall. And when the office set up, there ought to be a budget to deal with all these other matters. Now, although what Namedu has got a job to do, I thought that, in all fairness, if there's anything that you think that for some reason you ought to refer to government, you will refer to government. In fact, I have had discussions at the highest level in government, and I've not had indication that there's any deliberate attempt to stifle the Special Prosecutor on the work that he has been appointed to do. I have not had an indication. Don't forget that the president, as I speak, is in America, is in New York, and they are all in New York. So I'm surprised that this has come up at a time when.
But Gary, you use the word deliberate. Can we delete deliberate? It's just saying he's stifled the resources, but not deliberate.
There is no attempt. And when I said deliberate, I want to just say that it's as if somebody has decided that, well, I've set up the office, but the office must fail. You know, if you listen to the interview that was delivered, it appears, in my estimation, that somebody wants the office to fail. The President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, intends that corruption to the barest minimum ought to be reduced or to be taken away from the country. Don't forget, although Martinamidu is not a member of our party, he's not part of us, and yet the President chose him. That indication means that, look, I want to put somebody who will come and make sure that whether you are in the government or out of government, he will prosecute you.
But the Special Prosecutor is saying, the Special Prosecutor is saying that the President has that vision, but he doesn't think the President's team is playing ball.
It is not so. It is not so. Well, I'm refuting it. It is not so. It is not correct.
Well, you see, you say it's not so, but he has
had contact in New York, and I'm telling you that what is being proffered here is not correct.
No, you see, Gary, the reality on the ground is that he has no prosecutors, he has no vehicles, he has no cars. So, I mean, whatever it is, that's the reality. Unless we are expecting him to work single-handedly.
You see, Nana,
Yes.
Nana Sapa,
Yes,
you know
Gary.
that, public service, even to go through procurement, you ought to go through a certain laid-down procedure. Now, if you want cars for your office, you must go through laid-down procedures.
This was that one special office that we created for the almighty corruption that was killing us. We can't put it through the same normal mill.
Kindly let me learn.
Okay.
Laid-down procedures necessarily requires. You see, under the Procurement Act, that you must now put a public notices as you become a tender. Tender committee will sit down. They go through meetings and agree on who should be selected. You see, this office is a new office under our constitutional architecture. So I'm surprised that at this stage in so an infantile office, this thing is coming up. I think that nobody. You see, the President of the Republic of Ghana has got a very penchant desire to ensure that corruption is taken away from our public sector. And that is the reason why he chose somebody outside our party. Why? There are members in the party who could have done this work, but the president chose somebody outside the party and chose an NDC member. He didn't choose an MP member, an NDC member. And a senior of the NDC, somebody who was a former senior under the NDC. So please, I think that there is nothing at all. Nobody think that, the president wants to do something or the minister wants to. No, it's not true. It's not true. I think that these things that are going on, we are not happy. I've contacted New York. I've made calls everywhere, and there's nothing at all.
Well,
there's nothing at all.
Gary, I think on paper everything is fine. We chose somebody from NDC, everything. But now the reality is what I think everybody is.
Now, what I'm saying is that you see, public procurement. If you are not careful, my brother Martin sitting there, he knows. Martin sitting there, he knows. Ask him. To go to procurement to get something through procurement, it doesn't take 1 day or 2 days. It takes months. You understand? It takes months. So it's a new office. I will just urge Honorable Martin to be a bit patient. It's not him,
it's us, it's the public.
That things are done in a way that are done in the right way. We will support him. To make sure that corruption, as the president has indicated, it to a larger extent taken from a public purse. So please, we beg him. He shouldn't be going as if somebody want to sabotage him or whatever it is. I don't think that it's fair to the president at all. It's not fair. It's not fair at all. Because if it is fair, the president will have just said, well, somebody who he thinks will be, somebody who, but the man is very committed. He's committed. Very committed. And look, my vision is that corruption will no longer be part of public life. That is all. Simplicity. So nobody will sabotage his office. Nobody will do that. And before I spoke to you, I said I've made contact in New York. And I'm telling you that nobody will do that thing. Nobody. So please, we beg him. He should be willing to work to save the public purse, as the President Nana Akufo-Addo has indicated.
Gary, thank you so much for that intervention. Let me take a quick break and come back, and then we continue. But I think we'll continue on the basis that, is it just Martin or there's pressure on him to act? Because we all want to see people be held to jail. But then again, let us look at the aspect. Which part of all our corruption, hallelujah, is perception and which one is a reality? But in any case, I think it's pressure on Martin. We're coming straight back. Well, thank you very much for staying. We are looking at corruption and we are listening to the lamentations of the special prosecutor as to whether he has a point or not. But I will come to you, Martin. I mean, Gary is saying that, listen, in the civil service, the bureaucracy is a bit long, and so the special prosecutor should be a bit patient and, join the mill and we'll get to his turn. I mean, what's your position on that?
No, I disagree. I disagree because, you see, it's a case that citizens are charged. Everybody is ready to help Mr. Hamidu succeed. So, and considering the harm, what we've suffered, the drain on the public purse resulting from corruption, we shouldn't make Mr. Hamidu join the normal queue. No. That's why I said that we should have expedited action in terms of releasing funds for him. And that is what the ordinary man says. You see, sometimes before we come here, now they thank God you have WhatsApp groups. So you kind of ask, you conduct some little surveys, you ask your peers, what do they think? And so, Nana, I'm very confident in saying that I asked my peers and everybody is thinking that, look, most people, not everybody, that we should have expedited action. So at this time, it's not good to say that the normal civil service bureaucracy should prevail. No, even that bureaucracy itself, there's a way to expedite, you say. So let's do something about it. And that's the main point I'm making is that, I mean, the average politically conscious Ghanaian knows that it wouldn't take long for Mr. Hamidu to come out to spill the beans. So such a person, you plan for him.
Well, let me
then what is the use of people who plan, strategic planning and all that? You should know that with this man, he's such a strong character.
He'll come out to...
Yes.
Let me go to the phones. Joining us is the Deputy Attorney General, Joseph Penta. Joseph, you're welcome.
Nana, thank you. Thanks for having me. And good evening to my good friend, Martin Pebu.
Okay.
And good evening to your many viewers across the country.
Very great. Very
good evening,
great.
Honorable. Yeah, we're good together.
We're glad you come to intervene. But what's your position on the special prosecutor's lamentation? He thinks, well, he's not thinking. His office is not resourced enough. The public, want to see some action. And he's stuck in the middle where he can't perform. I mean, what's your position?
Well, thank you very much, Nana. To begin with, I will have to say that right from the beginning, I have been part of the process of establishing the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
Great.
And I participated in even the preliminary discussions, went to the U.S. to study their system and other places to be able to replicate it in the country. And so I have an in-depth knowledge as far as that particular office is concerned.
Great.
But, you see, Nana, we should put things in perspective.
Right.
Otherwise, we will end up hanging innocent persons. As far as I am concerned, measures have been put in place adequate enough to resource that office, to give that office enough logistics, and to ensure that the mandate as enshrined in that particular statute are carried to the latter. There is no disputation about that. And I can tell you that I have sufficient and substantial evidence to come to a conclusion that enough and adequate preparations have been made to ensure that all the complaints that we are discussing now become a thing of the past. And as late as last week, we had a meeting, a high-level meeting, presided over by no less a person than the Chief of Staff herself, in the presence of the Honorable Hamidu and other senior stakeholders and government officials, to put in place a comprehensive blueprint in terms of resources, that is funding, in terms of logistics, namely vehicles and office setup, and in terms of the office location itself. There was unanimity that indeed the office where he is now is a temporary place, and we have earmarked some bigger places that we are looking at to ensure that if those areas could be secured, we would, in the long term, hand over those offices to the Special Prosecutor. Again, a measure has been put in place that we look at the Greater Accra Redevelopment Plan and get land that we would use as a long-term development to establish the permanent office. I want to also add that the Director of Budget of the Ministry of Finance, who attended the meeting with the Chief Director of the Ministry of Finance, were tasked to immediately ensure that adequate funds are transferred to the office for it to continue operations while budgetary allocations are made in the 2019 budget. So I can assure you without a shred of doubt that adequate measures have been put in place to ensure that whatever you are discussing now, in the next few weeks, 1, 2, 3 weeks, will become a thing of the past. There will be no need for us to be discussing inadequate logistics. And I can appreciate what my good friend Martin Kwebu said. We all know that Martin Amidu is a very strong character. He more than deserves to be the special prosecutor, and he'll be giving all the needed support. In fact, I was not even in Accra. My boss traveled and had to recall me from my constituency to come and attend this meeting to ensure that we put in place adequate measures. Several subcommittees have been put in place to ensure that all the things complained about are resolved in the shortest possible time. So there's no doubt, and we should not lament at all. Very soon, it will be a thing of the past. There will be no complaint from that office because it will be adequately resourced and given enough equipment to run that office.
Martin, I mean, this is music to our ears, but like you're saying, knowing that the special prosecutor may need all these things, could we have put them in place before him coming, or he comes before? Because public opinion is very high.
Exactly.
And there's pressure on the man, because even out of office, you know, we saw the action.
Yes.
And now all the comments on social media is that, oh, now he's gone there, he's quiet, he can't act.
Exactly.
So probably that's why he's also come out lamenting.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
I mean,
yes, you're right. So as for planning, we definitely could have done far better with the planning. And you see, Honorable even accepted and sort of agrees with me that, yes, knowing him, the planning should have been far better. But, well, better late than never. From what he's saying, it means that he says in the next 3 weeks, right? Okay. So, Honorable, I hope your words are recorded. He said in the next 3 weeks, right?
Yes.
Yes, so then we should... not say keep our fingers crossed, but more or less something like that, and then hope that everything is done in 3 weeks' time.
Joe, one last question before I let you go. Hello, Joseph.
I'm on the line.
Good. One last question before I let you go. I mean, I don't know, maybe whoever handled government communication, I mean, could you issue a statement on the special prosecutor's behalf? Since the whole country is after his blood to go and prosecute. Yeah. Can you explain to us that, listen, the special prosecutor is not, office is not 100% set yet, and so give him some time? Because otherwise...
He said in 3 weeks, so there's some time.
Well, yes.
Let me, Martin, even the 3 weeks I stated, I can tell you that is just the maximum period for us to come out with something comprehensive. Otherwise, immediately something is being done.
Wow.
Okay.
Immediately something is being done. I can tell you that one. I don't need to disclose it to the public. But immediately something is being done.
Joseph, thank you.
In fact, I can tell you that the bureaucracies you were talking about, again here I agree with Martin, that the bureaucracies you are talking about should not be applied in an office like the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And I made that point as well when we had a meeting.
Good. I
said that, look, if we want to ensure that the man works and achieves the desired goals that we have set for him, then we must take out the bureaucracy. First, let me say this. This issue of gift mix system, you have to release funds, it has to go through some bureaucratic procedures, sometimes in a month before you can access it and all that. We discussed all that. And we made a suggestion that there is a legal way of expending such monies that will not infringe upon the law and that will satisfy the Office of the Special Prosecutor. So immediately, something has been put in place, and I know that within this week and next week, in terms of financial resources, something will be released. But long term, as I have spoken about, the adequate equipment are supposed to be made available. Vehicles are supposed to be procured for the office and all that. And let's remember, Nana made an intervention, correct though, but let me also state this, that there was no way that we could suddenly have acquired vehicles and then offices and etc. before we went through the processes of passing the bill into law and all that. We had to pass it into law before. Then we can start the process of implementation.
Joseph, thank you so much for that intervention.
I think that finally, we are going to, as you have rightly pointed out, Nana, we are going to put out a comprehensive statement to the public to assure the general public that the Venerable Amidu is not going to be left alone and that we are going to give him all the support available.
Joseph,
government is committed to that, and there's no negotiation at all.
Thank you so much. Let me take a quick break and then come back. Time is just running away. Well, thank you very much for staying. And I'm told I've got 2 minutes, so let me split it up. Senanu.
Yes, Nana.
Sorry for the breakup in network, but let me give you just a minute to wrap up.
I think that we have the penchant for doing a lot of talking, and when the time comes for action, we don't see what traction we have on a lot of very important things. This is one time that the people of Ghana are calling out to the presidency, to the men who are supposed to support the president, to the legislature, that please don't fail us. Don't make us feel as if we are not able of taking authority over that which should be done in order to move this country forward. That would be my concluding remarks.
Thank you so much. Let me come to studio concluding remarks, Martin.
Oh, well. Okay, so I should say that all said and done, we should continue to support the special prosecutor. It's good he's come out. This is exactly what we expect. So it's good that anytime there are such issues, he comes out so that we can give him the necessary support. And then once again, since now government has clarified the issue, would say that we would pray that everything that Honorable Penka stated comes to pass, Martin, so that the work will be excellently
20 seconds. How do we sensitize the public against perception of corruption and corruption itself? Because for us, well, as we're concerned, everybody should be jailed. As soon as you're a politician, we expect that you go into prison. How do we sensitize the public?
Wow. So that's difficult, but thankfully it's part of Mr. Amidu's work. So he has to get experts to come out. Yeah, but generally, you know, it's because of the way the system is run in Africa here, in general, let me say Ghana, because it's where I live. But when it comes to the actual corruption, it's based on evidence. You need, the name of the game is evidence. Anything short of that, then you can't perception.
Well. 024-366-2001. 024-366-2001. Tanti's Fashion, they make my shirts for the show, and Woodin gives me the fabric. So Woodin Fabric and Tanti's Styling. Give them a call and get yourself one. And we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you so much for watching.